Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Harder Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This composition was published by Yohanan Kopelovich. Maybe you don't know him by that name. This is the birth name of the more famous name, Yochanan Afek, the Grand Master of Chess Composition. This is a very interesting position, one of those that when we turn on the engine on chess.com, let me show you here on the analysis. As you can see, the bar says this is a draw, and we already know if the study is over here, it's not a draw. So, another very interesting study for us to practice. This is probably going to be a bit longer. Nevertheless, I think it will pay off for sure. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared for the practice. If you already know, then you already know also that the countdown of 10 minutes, the main one, will start, and then I'll resume with the beginning of the guided solution. And there we are. And as you can see, we can start immediately with this brilliant first move, which is to play g3, brilliant one. So I don't know if you have found it or not, but this is completely unexpected for me when I try to solve this one. I went over everything but this one. Let me start by showing that, for example, going with taking the pawn doesn't work because of course black won't accept the offer, it will just advance the pawn, and so we are now facing a pawn race where in the end the queen promotes of course for both sides, and at least we have a draw. This is never going to be a win for white. And so the other option over here is to go directly to the pawn race, but of course this will be even worse for white because then black can simply take the pawn on g2. Now we promote to the queen, but black promotes with check, and with another pawn coming up soon, and with a free queen, it's black. It's going to play for a win from here. So not easy to find that the first move is, of course, the brilliant g3. Why? Because, of course, this forces black to accept the pawn, so takes the pawn, and now, yes, we can advance our own pawn. So it's black to play now, and let's say we have two moves over here. Let me show you first just the most natural one, which is to advance the pawn to h2. But now it's white to play, so I am going to give you 1 minute. If you need more, pause. Don't worry about that. This is for the practice after all. And then I catch you up with the continuation. And if you are continuing with promoting to a queen, well, this is going to be a blunder. Why? Because we are offering the draw for black. Black just advances the pawn, so a brilliant move. Now we take it, and now it promotes to the queen. And when we take it, we see that the king has no squares to go. The pawns can't move; they are blocked, and there's no check. So we are facing a stalemate draw, which forces us not to promote to the queen. So we need to find that we need to promote it to a bishop. Brilliant one. And now everything is covered. Let's say, for example, that black tries to move to the side, so to advance the g pawn. Let's say it goes with the king h3. Now we can simply bring our king to f2, so controlling both pawns. When the pawn checks the king, we go to f1, but notice the power of the bishop. So it's controlling every light square that black needs, and if black tries to help the e pawn, it won't be enough because we simply go for a queen with our b pawn. Maybe the king tries to help advancing the pawn, but now here we just need to pay attention, bring the bishop to g2, and control the advancing of every pawn. So when the pawn advances now, maybe we can advance our pawn. We can wait for the pawn to reach e2 because the bishop is controlling the other two pawns. And of course, from here, it's going to be simple. If the king moves, for example, to e5 to grab our pawns, to keep inside the square of the pawn, so the rule of the square, we can simply advance the pawn, the king tries to go. But when it reaches the pawn, we take the e4 pawn. So this is just damaging for white, losing time. It's not going to win anymore. But of course, we also needed to find the under promotion to a bishop over here. So as we saw, black has this option, but the other option is not easy also. it's to play e4 immediately. Another brilliant move from black. And now again, it's time for you to find the continuation. And this is another under promotion continuation. We need to under promote to a rook. Why? Because if we promote to a queen, I think this is more obvious after the analysis of the previous variation. Well, here black can simply go for the promotion, and when we take the pawn, of course, it's going to promote to the queen, and we get the same stalemate that we saw before. So this is going to be a draw. So over here, it's not possible to do it in another way. Of course, promoting to a bishop is not a good idea, because then the king simply helps the g pawn to advance. Notice that now it's going to be different. So the bishop sacrifice for the pawn, but the other pawn comes in time, will promote with check, and then grabbing the isolated pawn on b file. So this is a loss, not even a draw for white. And of course, the stupid idea of taking the pawn directly just allows black to win easily, because when it promotes, it grabs the queen. So over here, not easy to see. We need to find another under promotion to keep going for the win. So now it's black to play again. And of course, black will try to push the pawns forward, so needs to help them. If it goes h2, it's too soon. We just bring the rook to a1, and it's not possible for black to win anymore. Let's say the king tries to help, but now we can grab the e4 pawn, and when it promotes, we of course sack the rook with the queen, and in the end we grab the last remaining pawn, and of course we have a free road to promote to a queen and win this one. This would be easy. So black can't go directly with h2, and plays the very strange move king h2. So again, another minute for you. If you need more, pause, find the continuation for white. And you need to find not so easy move, rook a7, another brilliant one. Why? Because over here we can't fight again against the pawns, like say for example going with rook a1 to cut the first rank from the promotion, because black just advances the pawn. Let's say we take in e4, and then as you can see we are going to grab the queen, but we can do nothing for the second pawn, and it will promote to a queen and to a win. Uh, and over here maybe another possible option you may think is to take the pawn in e4. But this is again a mistake because black will go with the same idea. So advancing the g pawn, maybe the king can approach, but now it's the same thing. It's going to be the same position. Black will promote to the queen, and so it's game over. So why rook a7? Well, because with rook a7 we have found a way to attack the pawns if black advances. So let's say black advances to g3, we grab the h7 pawn. Of course, black advances again, but now it's going to be different. We attack it from the top, the pawn promotes, we grab it, and the king takes it, but now it's going to be different because we are going to promote our h pawn. And so after the queens come to the board, we can even exchange them directly, of course, not wasting time, keeping simple. And then we advance the pawn, and bye bye. We are going to promote to a queen and win this one easily. But of course, black sees this and it tries to avoid it and go with the king to the side. King g2. Another moment for you, another minute. If you need more, pause, and then I'll catch you up to go until the end. This is the last one. And over here, we need to find that the only possible way to go for the win is to take the pawn on e4 with king e4. Brilliant one. Why? Because let's say, for example, over here, we grab the pawn. This doesn't work because, of course, we are going to promote on the h file. And even if you bring the rook to check, the king just moves to f1, you grab one pawn. But of course, now it's black to play, and if you remember from mastering the queen versus rook series that I made, the queen beats the rook on this one. So it will be a win for black, not for white, not what we want, of course, for us. And the other possible way, which is to go to a1, it's not working anymore because, again, black just advances the g pawn, not the h pawn. And of course, in the end, it's going to be easy to bring two queens. Why may you wonder why not advancing here the h2 pawn? Well, that would be a mistake because in the end the king can grab two pawns. So over here the brilliant continuation is to take the pawn now. So don't waste any tempo and go directly for the win from here. So now it's black to play. Of course, let's say if black advances the pawn, this is really easy. We just bring the rook, and of course, black will try to bring g pawn, but this is one tempo too far away. We just attack it with king f4. So now, when the pawn promotes, the king takes, and we grab the pawn. And of course, after that, we are going directly for a queen with our b pawn. So this doesn't work. But the other option also, it won't work also because we, of course, touch the pawn with king f4, so we need to be close to it. So when it advances, now we bring the rook. The king tries to trick us into not waiting for the sack. So now it's threatening to go with g2. This one could be sent for another canton, but I think it's not needed anymore. So we just move to one side. And if the king attacks our rook, we go to the other side. And of course, when the king comes back, I can check it. Now the king moves. I take one pawn. This is almost a rook versus pawns and games. And of course, we are going to beat the knight on the h file, of course. Not possible. Next move, if the king moves to f1, it's checkmate. If the knight moves, then we take the knight. We still have a pawn, but we can already mate with just a rook and so on. So from the beginning, not easy, and starting with a brilliant g3 move. I hope you have enjoyed. I for sure have. And so I see you in future videos. Bye bye.